Good morning, children of Standard 9. So, today we are going to take the topic Jainism and Buddhism. So, in the 6th century BC, when the Aryans settled down and moved in all direction, particularly in the east direction, so they came in contact with the different fields, different tribes, and they started settling there. And as we know, they pushed down the original inhabitants to far south and started making their own kingdoms or own empire. And the period in the later Vedic age can be seen as iron was easily available and the iron tools were more durable. So this helped them to clear away the vast tract of forest and bring them into the cultivated land. So they began to cultivate crops, and as crops were producing surplus value, so they did not have to wander from place to place in search of food. And these stored foods helped to maintain them or live them in a civilized manner. And though the surplus food, the kings used these surplus food grains to carry on the military works and help the other traders to carry on their business. In short, we can say that this led to the settled life. As settled life led, lot of changes took place in the society and the political system, the economy, the religion, etc. So in short, we can say that as the expansion of the Aryans, they took place, so they had to fight with the neighboring kingdoms to acquire more territories, and frequent wars were fought among each other neighboring states to acquire more and more power. As a result, a war between the smaller kingdoms and the bigger kingdoms took place. So this wars resulted in extending their territories, and they made their own territories larger. So these territories came to be known as the Janpadas. And many Janpadas, they came together to form the Mahajanpadas. And in short, we can say that the Aryans' political system went on large when they established the big kingdom. Their society, their cultures, their tradition went in a long way in making them a sustainable life and a civilized life. Then we come in the 6th century BC. An important event or epoch in the history took place because many of the valued thinkers like Zoroaster in Persia, Confucius in China, at the same time Mahavira and Gautam Buddha in India came up with their logical thinking, condemning the caste and the rigid caste system and orthodox nature. So these thinkers not only condemned the orthodox nature but also reacted against the caste practices, social distinctions made in this. So in this context, two prominent religions that sprang up apart from others, that Jainism and Buddhism, came in India, and they were the greatest religious reform movements in India. So today we'll take up with your topic, that is the Jainism and Buddhism. This was short how they emerged. Now our reliable sources of Jainism and Buddhism can be brought back into the three different categories, like the Angas. The Angas were supposed to be the Jain scriptures, and it was believed that the Angas were known as Agamas. That means the words spoken from the Lord's mouth. So it was believed that when Mahavira gained attainment or salvation, or when he became a Jinnah, so his words, his teachings came to be piled up in 12 parts known as the Angas. In Sanskrit, word Angas means part. So therefore, it is known as the Jain scriptures, that is the collectively known as the Dava Sangami. Also it is known as collective, these 12 parts are also known as the Dwada Sangami. And this has been again further subdivided into Acharya Sutra. The Acharya Sutra deals with the conduct for the Jain monks, what sort of life or code of conduct should they perform specially written for the Jain monks. Then we have the Bhagavati Sutra. The Bhagavati Sutra describes the code of conduct of the Jains. That means the main Jains' doctrine, their philosophical ideas and principles are being described in the Bhagavati Sutra. Then we have the second source, that is called the Tripitakas. The Tripitakas itself knows the basket, the three basket, Tripitakas. These were the three baskets are known as the canon of Buddhist literature. So this canon can be divided into three parts, that is called the Vinayaka Patika or Vinayaka Pitaka. That means this Pitaka deals with the rules and regulations to be followed by the Buddhist monks and the nuns while living a simple and spiritual life. That is called the Vinayaka Pitaka. Then the Sutta Pitaka describes the Buddha's discourse on various subjects. This describes the Buddha's discourse on various occasions or on various subjects. Then finally, the Abhidhamma Pitaka describes the Buddhist philosophy. Buddhist philosophy, the mind, the human mind and the soul and the states of matter. So these Tripitakas also foster a valuable source of knowledge and information about the early Vedic period and the later Vedic period, the economy, the society and the way of life. So this also is an important source of information about the people in the 6th century BC. Then finally we have the Jatakas. The Jatakas are the texts or the stories written the Buddha's life or Bodhisattvas after the death of Buddha. Many stories are written. They also furnish a valuable source of information about the Buddhist way of life, the scriptures, the religion and the mode of moral conduct. Therefore, it is also said that means the Buddha in his previous birth, the stories always comes with the animal or human figures. The characters are mostly like the elephants, the tigers, leopards, and at the end they have a moral lesson. The virtue is given, the value given at the end ends up with a moral value of the Buddha. The Buddha may take in various forms, animal forms and other, and they gives us a moral lessons. It is also believed that the Jatakas, they ran parallel with the Mahabharata in fostering the moral values among the people. And apart from this, the Jatakas also serve as a useful information regarding the Buddhist philosophical views, their teachings, their way of life, their moral conduct, and also gives us the social, religious, economic and political situation prevalent at that time. So these were the sources from which we get about the information. Now what were the different reasons why the Jainism and Buddhism flourished? Or what were the causes for the rise of Jainism and Buddhism in India? So different historians have projected the different causes that led to the rise of Jainism and Buddhism in India. So we'll analyze each cause step by step. The first cause we see reaction against the ritualism. In the early pages, in the early period, people were mostly concerned with the rituals and ceremonies. And these rituals were considered to be very costly, which was beyond the reach of a common man. He could not hardly afford to make such yajnas and such sacrifices. So therefore, the common man had no other alternative, was always looking for a religion that would be not concerned with so much ritualism and sacrifices. So this was one of the way the people reacted against the orthodox religious practices that was prevalent in that time. Secondly, we have corruption in religion. As the religions were corrupt, many religions that were headed by the Brahmins or the priests, so they took their way of offering or way of performing the yajnas according to their own benefit. They extracted much of the peasants' wealth, and so it was far beyond the reach of common man to perform the religious duties, because it became more and more costlier, and also corruption. The pandits and all the priests, they had their own means to perform the rituals and sacrifices which the common man could not afford to such religious ceremonies. As a result, they were looking for a religion would be equal, not biased, and simple, so that they could easily follow. Therefore, this was also another cause for the rise of the Jainism and Buddhism. Then third, we have the rigid caste system. As mentioned, the four caste system in the Rigvedic period, the Brahmanas, the Kshatriyas, the Vaishyas, and the Sudras. So the caste system were very rigid and complex. That means the distinctions were made between the different castes of the people, the lower and the higher. They were not treated equally, and so or not in common brotherhood. So this Jainism and Buddhism, they started teaching or making all together in one single platform, where there was no caste distinction. Any person could come and join the religion. So they found it that the rigid caste system was another way of which they found it difficult. One cannot change the religion unless and until he had to seek the permission, or intercaste marriage or dining with other persons was strictly banned. And so the people found it very, very difficult because of the caste system to go on. Clear? The next we have the difficult language. The Sanskrit was considered to be the religious language at that time, and the Brahmins were supposed to be the treatises of the Vedas, and all the religious scriptures were explained only by them, and it was far beyond the reach of the common man to understand the language. So they were thinking that if it could have been in their own common language, they could understand better, because Sanskrit was very difficult language, and it was far beyond the reach of common man to understand such language. And as these two religions like Jainism, Buddhism preached in the common language of the people, the Pali language, so it was very clearly understood by the people, and they openly welcomed this religion. So this was also another setback for the rise of the Jainism and Buddhism. Then political situations. The political situations also played a major role in fostering the rise of Jainism and Buddhism, because many of the political kings or rulers, they gave state patronage to this religion. That means they did not make one religion compulsory and made it a state religion, whereas they were tolerant towards other religion also, and they gave ample donations or land grants to flourish this religion. So one of them we can call it the Bimbisara, and his son Ajatashatru, the ruler of Magad. They also gave large of ample donations, the land grants and aid for the development of Buddhist and Jainism. And so they were tolerant towards the other religion, though they were the followers of Buddhism, but they were tolerant to other religions as well, and they gave ample donations and land grants to these religions so that they can give. Therefore, it favored the royal patronage. Finally, that is the agricultural economy. As iron was easily available that time, so the farming was an important activity of the people, and the iron was used to make the plows, the hoes, the sickles and all. And also it was believed that the carts, the bullock carts or the plows were driven by animals. And so therefore these common people were against the animal sacrifices. As it has been said in the Vedic period, the animal sacrifice was very common. So these people reacted. They want to protect their animals to create more agricultural output, because these animals are used in drawing the plows or pulling the hoes or the plows to cultivate the land. So these people reacted violently and tried to save the animals, because the animals only were used by this one in various activities of the daily life. And so the animal sacrifices, the people were against this. So they wanted to protect the economy. So they voluntarily revolted against the animal sacrifices. So these were some of the causes that led to the rise of Jainism and Buddhism in India. So today in our topic we have only these causes. Next coming up following will be the Vardhaman Mahavira and his religion Jainism will take in detail. Till then, take care, have a good day, God bless you.